Um, okay, well, as I mentioned on the recording, I had a meeting with Christine yesterday, and she brought up getting some some streamline training for VA Earls and FHA streamlines. And so I talked to Kelly yesterday. Kelly's going to put together some training for the FHA streamline, and then we actually have the VA, since we're like newly approved VA on our own without VIP. The VA's coming out here, I think, sometime in September to do a training with us just to make sure that we're all dialed in on VA training, which I thought was really strange that because I got this phone call. Hi, you're newly approved. We were just wondering if you'd like to have somebody come out and do some training. And I was like, what? Like, this is weird. And so I called him back and I said, so you legitimately just get on a plane and come out to Denver? And she goes, yeah, we would love to do that. And I was like, okay. I go on, put you in touch with Kim. Anyway, so they're going to come out. So I'm definitely going to get some of that done. And then what I'd like to do, and I'm going to just pick one of you really experienced LOs to do a recorded training. We don't have to have everybody on the call, or we could do it on this next weekend, next week on the Coffee for Closers call. Just somebody who's taking an actual bank statement, or not a bank statement, but a mortgage statement from a borrower and entering all the data, watching you enter all the data and what it means to you on the refinance breakdown. I think that is such a powerful tool, because it is, when you walk through a refinance breakdown with a customer, I mean, it's a no-brainer to do the loan or not do the loan. And it is designed to do that. And I literally never had a customer who didn't go, this looks great, let's move forward. And so, unless it didn't make sense for them to do it, because we have the break even in there. So I'll send an email to Chris, Jack, and no offense to anybody else, but Chris, Jack, and G, and just ask you if you want to volunteer, and then we'll have you do it. I don't want to have a bunch of people do it, because like, well, here's how I do it. It's like, just one of the three of you does it really well. You all three do it really well. So I just think it would benefit everybody to just see it from that level and see how to leverage that tool, because it's super powerful. And then the next thing is Giuseppe bringing what Giuseppe brought up on that email this morning about payoffs. And so I went into the WhatsApp thread last night, just because I haven't been in there in forever. And I went back to, I don't know how many posts ago, and some of the stuff, I loved what Steve Grossman said, where instead of requesting payoffs from the investors, you actually just get the last mortgage statement and do your own calculation, and don't even order the payoff until the loan's closed, because you still have the 3-day right of rescission. It's too late then for them to do something, or maybe even not. There's some investors, I think that we should spend some time, I'll get with Kim on this, but spend some time doing the research about which investors don't require us to have an actual payoff from the investor, that'll let us pay off a loan, so that we can avoid triggering. Because what happens is, what Giuseppe brought up this morning is when you request that payoff, it triggers the lenders to like, oh, somebody's trying to refinance, we want to keep that loan. And let me explain the philosophy, because a lot of times as loan officers, when this happens, when we get into one of these markets, is everybody's like, I don't understand why the investor does that. Don't they want us to send them more loans? Why are they trying to steal that loan from us? And their position is this: we paid you for that customer. It's ours. It's our customer now. And so we're going to do everything we can to keep it. So just know that that's their mindset, and you can't fault them. You could sit here and talk about it all you want, but that's their mindset. They paid us for that customer when we did the loan. So that's the approach that they're taking. I had actually never heard that strategy of not even requesting a payoff, and figuring out which investors will take which don't require an actual payoff. And so that's something we definitely want to look into. So we want to talk about that. And then also, I saw somebody who posted, one of your customers has gotten blown up. Every one of you has a customer that's gotten blown up after their credit got pulled. And what you need to do is have that customer send you a screenshot of their phone with all the calls and all the text messages, so that you can share that with all of your clients before you tell them to do an opt-out pre-screen, and tell them why they're doing it, so that they can avoid that. I thought that was a really cool strategy that you could have. Is like going, here's what's going to happen. I'll send you one of my clients' phones after they had their credit pulled and they just got blown up by telemarketers that because your credit got pulled. So those were the two things.
Hey,
Giuseppe,
quick question on that.
what's that?
Just a quick question on the pre-screen opt-out.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it was this. Did we talk about this last week, or did I just hear about it since?
I don't know, probably, but
It
what?
it takes it also removes the ability for us to see that they're have their credit pulled, and that so none of our market intelligence type stuff will work. Is that true?
I think that is true. Yeah, I think that is true. That's why you have to stay close to your client, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think if all things being equal, if you're close to your client, I think my personal opinion is that's a better strategy than leaving it to chance that they're going to get blown up and actually take a call from somebody. And so that's my opinion. Anxious to hear what everybody else thinks. But Giuseppe, you sent out that email this morning, so why don't you lead it off with what's your approach on this?
Well, yeah, I actually was reading through part of that thread too. There was a lot more on it this morning, so I took some notes. So the main thing, one of the main things that they brought up is that servicers, Freedom especially, I guess, can refi their own loans without having any LLPA adjustments. So they're just going to beat you on rate every single time. So there's no way, the only way to secure that transaction is to make sure that that Freedom doesn't find out. So the way they would find out are credit checks and payoffs. So Freedom actually created a payoff portal right on their website for their clients, and they sell it to them as like a value add. Hey, you can order your own payoff right through this portal. And as soon as they do, of course, they're triggered, right? So we have to be aware of that. If one of your clients is a Freedom loan and they're like, oh, I can pull my own payoff, and be like, no, don't do that. Some of the things that other
Really
lenders are
smart
doing
of
that
Freedom.
I thought was interesting was, either a 2 or a 3 bureau soft pull up front, and then you make sure they do opt out pre-screen. And some of these big banks that these guys are on in our coaching group are like, they will, with a 3 bureau soft pull, which of course costs more than a 2 bureau soft pull, they're going to fully underwrite the loan because you can get a PIW, right? And then like the day before closing, they'll pull a hard pull. I mean, nothing generally is going to show up on the hard pull that's going to be different, unless and that can be coaching up front, like, do not miss any payments in this next 30-day period, right? And then just pray for a couple of days that they don't get a call, and then they close. So you're pulling the credit twice. So that's the con. There's two charges there, but
Yeah.
I would think that would dramatically cut off the solicitations. Someone else brought up that their title company reached out to them and told them that they can order payoffs for us. And by them ordering it, they can select whether it's a sale of a home or a refinance. And so they've been having them just select sale of a home. And that seems to have stopped the servicer from reaching out to the homeowner. So I don't know what that would look like. None of our title companies have brought that up, but if that's a possibility and we can work it into our system, that could be another easy fix. The whole point is just reduce these opportunities of them reaching out.
Right.
So there was that. And then the other thing that I just had good success on just this morning is, I noticed there was a couple clients that I'd reached out to with my normal template when they first reached out about, hey, our rate's lower. Should we start looking at this? And everyone knows by now the Fed's going to cut in the next few weeks. And so I wanted to kind of entice them to start doing something sooner, especially because I'm out of town the entire week. The Fed is going to cut rates. So I'm trying to get as many things teed up as possible. And so I just added a line to my email reply to them. And I just said, I suspect there will be an influx of mortgage inquiries in the next month. So a lot of our past clients can skip to the front of the line by having us rebuild their application, gather up the documents we need ahead of time. By doing that, pre-underwriting the loan, and then we'll be 100% ready to lock whenever the rate hits without having to wait in line. And then like after 2 weeks of dragging their feet, I sent that email at like 7 this morning, and at 7:30, I already had the mortgage statement. And then I added to it, if you've not done so yet, I highly recommend you opt out, and send them the opt out pre-screen thing to avoid
You want to
getting.
share that template with everybody?
Sure.
Thanks.
So those were my takeaways from that thread. Just a couple ways to try, and I thought it was interesting. I'm like, that makes sense. Like, I don't know, can we absorb an extra credit report? I feel like a lot of us are doing 2 anyways. So
Obviously, I don't want to pay. None of us want to pay for 2 credit reports, but in this situation, in this instance, it's definitely worth it because it's the difference between actually doing a loan or not doing a loan.
yeah, or getting to your clear to close, and then Freedom calls them and offers them 5.5%
exactly.
with no fees.
The other thing too is that to your point about coaching the customer, you got to put it in writing that says, don't jack up your credit between now and then. You got to make all your payments on time, because I am going to pull your credit at the end. And if something's changed, we're going to have to we could potentially have to renegotiate the rate if your credit scores drop. And very clearly, just to let them know, it's like, if your credit score drops, you're going to have to do a different rate.
I think like my templates still say that like we have to pull a credit report right before closing. So it's almost like, I think that message is out there already. Like, don't fuck up your credit in the
Right.
next 30 days,
Right.
or else all this ends at the very end,
Right.
without closing. So
Right. I had never heard of
I
not.
thought it was interesting. Like, I'm like, why can't you underwrite a loan with even a two bureau credit soft pull, right? I mean, nothing shows up that's going to lower the score on the final one unless they screwed something up.
Right. What it's going to do is, it definitely makes sense to pour 2. And you can always let, as long as the customer knows that there's a chance if you mess this up, there's a chance that, you're going to have to renegotiate the rate. I don't see a problem with it at all. I think in this situation, if you can tee people up for this and get everybody just ready to go, you're going to be locking loans like crazy. So
I think the benefit to 3 is that you actually have the final score, right? Because now we've seen with 2, then we pull credit right when they go under contract, and sometimes the score's higher, which is great. But now, now you either have, you're gonna have to redisclose a better rate or reduce the MI. It can cause other issues if you're trying to do it at the last minute.
right. Right.
So you're rebuilding your clients' applications for them. They're not filling out the application themselves.
Yeah. So let's see here. Let me show you. Ryan saw this, but I put together kind of what was.
Can I say something on Freedom while you're trying to find that?
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a Freedom client earlier this year. I had a refinance. I mean, I get what you're saying, but these people, I mean, you guys also have to think these like call center servicer type LOs are not good, and clients just think it's easier to go directly to those people. I mean, I got a client reached out, I was like, hey, I got, Freedom reached out to me about a refinance. I was like, send it over to me. It was like 6.125 FHA. It was like 2 points. I was like, dude, just don't do that. We're going to do a conventional loan at 7.125, no points. And I showed them the math. So just because they reach out, just still want to say, hey, well, send me what they sent you and let's take a look. So anyway.
Can I add on that really quick? I think like realtors, clients they're going to remember what's on top of their mind. So if we can continuously blast out information to them that don't look at these spam calls, like you're going to get people calling you and it's all going to be basically junk. I think like that would be a good thing to do. Is just, I don't know, bi-monthly or monthly, just reminding clients of that too. So just my 2 cents.
Yeah. So, and I can send this to anyone who wants. I mean, it won't work for you, but maybe it's a starting point. I kind of put together a flow chart of like my refi process, which was always kind of in my head. And then I put it here so that our team can kind of see like what we're thinking, right? So Christine, to get to yours, like, okay, so lead comes in, repeat client, yes, right? Do we have an old Encompass file? Because it sounds like from Ashley, maybe we won't have closed Encompass loans of our closed loans, and then you Encompass, which, you know, and it's not that we don't want to do that. It's that maybe there's a compliance issue with transferring some of that stuff. So if we don't have an Encompass file, no, they're going to have to redo their own app.
Can I
But
stop
if
you
they
real
do
quick?
yeah.
You're going to have the closed loan files.
Okay. And now she said the data in Salesforce or in Jungo, but I'm like, the data that's in our Salesforce now, yeah, it's their HOA and their insurance and their LTV, but like I'm talking about employment, you know, all that stuff that you can. So if we have the old Encompass file, just to get back to Christine really quick, if we do, and I have the capacity to rebuild the file in 24 hours, which I do now, but we don't if 10 people call in one day, then I'm going to rebuild it. And then I just send them an email that just talks about, request their mortgage statement and insurance if we need it. And then we kind of follow the same process. And if we don't have the capacity, then it's a separate email template that has the application link. So that's, I do
Thank
right
you.
now. And we did.
Has anybody
most
ever
of-
seen the movie A Simple Mind?
most of 20,
Giuseppe has. He's why he's laughing.
most of 2020 and 21, we were rebuilding. I mean, I had the team size and happened to have like Lily Segura who rebuilt 1,000 files probably, and they were all perfect after the first two. So, and she could rebuild it in 15 minutes. So like by the time they send me their mortgage statement, like it's rebuilt and, we commit on okay to pull credit, work number, all of that, and send them options. So it just depends.
Well, just let me take a step back here for the newer people, because not everybody's got that many past clients, but those of you that do, that would definitely be it. If you don't mind sharing that template as well, Giuseppe, any one of you can build the same thing. And you can also build it for, you should have that's what it means to build your process. What's your process for doing a loan? And when it's that well defined and you know what it is.
You said you want me to share it now, like on the screen?
No, I mean, just share it to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Send it back out, send it along with your other email templates. But taking the time to diagram your flow is so powerful, because you know exactly what you're going to do and exactly what the process is. Everybody follows this. That's how you get to where you get really efficient, because you're doing the same thing every time. It's an assembly line. It's not custom every time. Oh, okay. No, you don't have to send me your mortgage statement. I'll get started now. It's like, no, I don't work on your file until you send me the mortgage. It's like if it's a brand new customer, it's like, well, I can't do anything without your mortgage statement. Let's take a look at that first.
And
right? It's
just really
understanding.
quick,
Do you have that? Do you have stuff like that in there?
Well, I mean, if it's not a repeat client, then I'm going to do a discovery call, just a 15-minute call. I'm not going to just send them an email and have them complete something, because I want to build some rapport.
Of course.
The past client trusts me already. So, but then after that, it's the same, it's the same process. So.
Yeah. And the discovery call tells you whether or not you want to take them through the rest of the process, right? You don't want to waste anybody's time or yours.
Yeah.
Questions, feedback, comments?
Thank you for sharing that, because Kayla and I were trying to do a perfect loan process spreadsheet for refinances, and we had like 3 things on there. And it's like, I don't know what else to put on here, because I haven't been a part of this. So that's really helpful to have.
Sure.
Thank you.
Works really good. So when I
I'm
did
sure it does.
50 loans as an LOA for Jeek a few years back.
Per
Yeah,
month.
in a month, right?
A month. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, there
I
was.
remember
and I
thinking
don't
you were
feel-
a freak when I first started working here after I did my first loan and seeing how many you were doing per month. I was like,
Well, that was
that guy's
different.
weird.
I mean, those
Yes, you must have
refis
no
with
life.
past clients, right? I mean, there was, I'd say, what do you think, Ryan? Maybe 50% of them, if they were past clients and you had a PIW or work number, like I never even spoke to them on the phone. It was like email, reply with like a video of the refi breakdown, and all the questions that I know they're going to ask are all answered on that, and they just reply back and they're like, lock it. Like, okay,
Yeah, for
here's
sure.
Ryan.
For honestly though, yeah, I think that's the thing too, is that email's so good. And I've gone one step further and done like a little video in there sometimes for clients, like I do on all my purchases, to like walk them through it. So unless you have like 10 refi breakdowns to send out in a day, usually you don't really ever have to get on the phone, which is nice if you go that route.
Yeah, if you do the video, you can just basically talk through what I wrote through, like
Yeah.
when's your first payment, when you're all that. But one of my wins that I forgot to mention, I've been forgetting for the last couple of weeks, is Loom, Loom. It's like a video recording thing,
Yeah.
similar to BombBomb, but I feel like I still use BombBomb to blast out all the emails, but Loom for screen recording, and the fact that it throws your face in a bubble there has been really, really easy to use. And there's a free version. And then I've been doing that for some refinances just to test it out.
Have you, because BombBomb has that feature in your email. Have you tried that? And it just doesn't
I've
work.
tried that and it just doesn't, it just glitches. I don't know if it's
Oh.
my computer or what. It works half the time. So I was looking for something else. Yeah.
I know a lot of the guys that use Loom love it. Really, everybody that I know that uses Loom loves it.
Do you have the ability to like unshare your screen in the middle of the video? Because that's the one thing I don't like, is like if I just want to not be a bubble for a minute and just talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have that ability?
I don't know, but you can make your bubble bigger.
Okay.
You can make
Like,
your face
blow it
bigger
up
on the
in the
screen,
middle of
depending
it.
on what you're trying to show. I don't, yeah, I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
that's the one thing I don't like about BombBomb, but anyway.
I want to get, there's some things, some takeaways for me is to talk to Kim about finding out which investors don't require payoffs. Let's do that, because to me, man, that just eliminates so much headache and last minute, gyrations, and then all the work that we've done on the file for nothing.
We
And
do have to
then,
be careful if they have like a massive escrow shortage, though. I guess we could add.
What's
If there's
that?
an escrow shortage.
Yeah.
We got to make sure we got to have a pretty. We don't want to be super short on funds, but yeah.
That's why that you got to have that mortgage
Mortgage
statement.
statement,
I mean,
yeah.
that's going to be key. And then, yeah, they actually talked about what happens when you have like an escrow shortage or something like that. You definitely pad this, and you might pad this a little more than you would pad it otherwise. So maybe that's something that we take a look at on the refinance breakdown. First, let's find out who doesn't require them and see if there's a solution there that we can avoid requesting the payoff altogether. Because if you
I feel
could,
like-
that's a big, it could be a big deal, but I don't know
Well, and then we got to talk to title companies, right?
about requesting for purchase.
About being okay with that. I feel like that title companies would have to equally be on the board with that as well, right?
Like calling it a home
Andrew?
sale payoff.
Or just not getting a payoff,
Oh, yeah.
right? Because like I know Chicago, Chris and I were chatting about this. Chicago requires that they pull the payoffs. So we emailed her to see what the deal is with that, but I feel like that's also part of the equation.
I mean, it's really not that. It's just math. You can.
I feel like our refinance
You can do
breakdown's
it. It's not
always so
hard.
spot on.
Yeah, it's always spot on. You just have to, I think there was a couple things that could be added to there to make it better. And because, this one was kind of built by this outside consultant, I don't know how to fix it. But I think it would be, since we have all those boxes, you can remove fields, you can remove and add. It might make sense to have a buy down credit field, like
100%.
below the second mortgage, that turns into a negative number so that it reduces their payoff. And then it might make sense if it's like an FHA payoff, they add a month of MI to the payoffs for the skip payment. If you're skipping 2 payments, I mean, that could end up, $400, $500, $600 that our refi breakdown is not calculating. So you have to just kind of take that into account as you're building the refi breakdown, or we build the spreadsheet that adds that in there if it's an FHA payoff. Those are the main thing. I was using an older version, I guess. So we had yesterday or the day before, whenever we were trying to get CDs out for some refis closing on Friday, where I ended up giving like freaking $3,000 of lender credits on 4 loans combined, because the aggregate adjustment was off because I was doing an interest credit, and I guess the original spreadsheet wasn't built for that, and so the cash to close was off on a bunch of them. So So that was good lesson learned. But yeah, so whenever we see stuff like that, like better to, you know, bring it up now and address it now than when we're in the thick of it.
Trying to find that post that they said about Freedom is the company that, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, why do we all sell to Freedom if maybe,
They had amazing rates.
yeah.
Yeah.
Last
They're
year,
great rates.
it's like they knew. Yeah, they knew, of course, everyone was going to refinance and they were going to have this portal, and like they're in the
Yeah.
screw you, we're keeping this loan business.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Anything else? All right, Giuseppe, if you could share all that stuff, and then I'll get with the three of you guys for doing a refinance breakdown demo next week. And then I'll keep everybody up to date on when we're going to do this for Earl and Streamline training.
And I would say, just on the, you know, the things with sharing systems is that, right, it's going to be different for you. And if you are not busy, I would take the application over the phone, or I would rebuild it and review it with them over the phone, right? Because that, if you have time to do that, you end up getting a better application, and it just work, you know, you build more rapport on that call and it ends up being smoother. But if you're too busy, then send them to the website. All right, I'll send them, and the couple of email templates that I'm using to go along with those. One's just called the Streamline Refi template, which just asks for the mortgage statement and insurance. And then the other one is, you know, has an application built into it too.
Thank you for sharing all that. I think that's it. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and have an awesome day. Thank you. Thanks, G.